The galaxy had seen many races rise and fall, but there was always a strange silence when the word humanity was spoken. The ancient records of alien civilizations mentioned a species from a small blue world, a species that once reached for the stars with fire and steel. They were described as bold, reckless, and full of strange courage. Yet in the present age, when great empires spread across thousands of systems, humanity was nowhere to be found. Their place was empty, like a seat waiting for someone who never returned. The younger races whispered about it in secret places. Why were humans gone? Did they destroy themselves, or did something else erase them? Some scholars claimed humanity was a myth, a story to inspire soldiers and leaders. But there were others who swore the records were real. They said the universe itself had changed after humanity vanished, as if something powerful had been removed from the great stage. On the edge of known space, a forgotten archive ship drifted. Silently near a dying star, it had belonged to the archivists, a neutral species that collected the history of others. The ship's hulls were cold, its power low, but one console still flickered with light. A message kept repeating, sent into the void, as if waiting for someone to hear it. The words were in an old language, but the translation carried the same meaning. They are gone. Humanity's place is vacant, and the universe knows why. No one had ever answered that message. It was too dangerous, too strange. Entire crews had disappeared when they tried to follow the coordinates hidden inside the signal. But one day, a small smuggler ship passed near the dying star. Its captain was not afraid of ghost stories. He was desperate, hunted by warlords, and he needed a place to hide. His scanners picked up the faint signal, and his curiosity overpowered his fear. The smuggler was a man named Karos. It's not human, but Valery, a species known for sharp senses and quicker instincts. He entered the archive ship carefully, his breathing shallow as his boots echoed in the empty corridors. Dust floated like ash in the weak gravity. He could feel something heavy in the air, something that pressed against his chest. But there was no sound except his own heartbeat. When he reached the console, he saw the message with his own eyes. The words repeated again and again. His skin prickled. Didn't believe in myths, but he had heard stories in dark spaceports. Stories of humans who could fight without fear, who could outthink machines, who could stare down death itself. His people said humans were dangerous even when they were weak, because they never stopped trying. Karos leaned closer. The console displayed old star maps, routes that stretched into uncharted space. He hesitated, but then his hands moved fast, copying the data into his ship's system. The maps showed something strange, a region no empire claimed, a dark zone avoided by all travelers. In the center of that void, there was a single mark. It's a symbol of a circle with two lines crossing it, the old human sign for Earth. As soon as he copied the data, the archive ship came alive. Lights flickered. Doors sealed behind him. Karos ran, his breath fast, as if the dead ship had woken from a long sleep. The engines of his smuggler craft roared when he escaped into space, but even then, he could feel the signal following him, like a whisper in his mind. They are gone. Humanity's place is vacant, and the universe knows why. Far away in the great council of the Dominion, leaders of powerful empires gathered. They had felt the signal reappear. They spoke in hushed tones, afraid to even say the word human. Some wanted to erase the coordinates again, to bury the past. Others wanted to hunt whoever triggered the signal before the truth escaped. Because there was one truth they all feared. Humanity had not simply vanished. Something had removed them. And if that something still existed, then every empire was in danger. Karos did not know this. He only knew that the maps pulled at him like gravity, dragging him toward the unknown. He told himself it was only a hiding place, somewhere no warlord would chase him. But deep in his mind, he felt another reason. The universe was holding its breath, waiting for something, waiting for someone. And when Karos set his course toward the dark region of space, the first step of the mystery began to unfold. Karos sat in the pilot's chair, the old maps glowing on his screen. The lines of stars stretched like a spider's web, all pointing toward the same place. He knew he should throw the data away. He knew every story about humans ended badly, with vanishing ships or strange accidents. But still, He kept staring at the symbol. The old mark of Earth. It called to him in a way he could not explain. His ship drifted through quiet space as he thought. Outside the windows, stars shone like silver dust, but inside the cabin, silence. Pressed against him, he remembered the voice of the archivist's message. The words kept repeating in his head, like a ghost whispering into his ear. They are gone. Humanity's place is vacant, and the universe knows why. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but dreams came instead. He saw battles fought long ago. Strange figures with human faces charging across burning fields. He saw machines destroyed by men with nothing but metal blades in their hands. He saw ships falling from the sky, and yet the humans stood and kept moving, refusing to surrender. When he awoke, sweat clung to his skin, and his heart pounded like he had lived the memory himself. Kairos shook his head, told himself it was just fear mixed with imagination. But when he checked his ship's systems, he noticed something strange. His engines had adjusted their course on their own. The coordinates from the archive were already locked. The ship was taking him toward the dark region, even though he had not given the order. He cursed under his breath and tried to cancel the path, but the system resisted. Finally, with shaking hands, he let go of the controls. Maybe it was already too late to turn back. Days passed as the ship moved deeper into the unknown. The stars grew fewer, as if light itself avoided the region. Other ships never traveled this far. This part of space was avoided by every empire, not because of borders or wars, but because of something older. Kairos could feel it in his bones, a heavy silence that grew stronger the deeper he went. Then, without warning, his scanners picked up another ship. Kairos froze. The vessel was massive, shaped like a black spear drifting through the void. It did not carry any empire's mark. No signals came from it, no life signs, yet it followed his ship at a steady distance, like a predator watching from the shadows. Kairos turned off his engines, hoping the stranger would pass. But the black ship stopped as well, waiting in silence. It did not fire, it did not move closer. It simply watched. Hours stretched like years. Finally, Kairos could not stand it anymore. He sent a short transmission, his voice shaky. "This is Kairos of the smuggler craft Iron Fang. I don't want trouble. I'll turn away." No answer. Instead, the black ship shifted its course. Its nose pointed deeper into the dark zone, the same direction the archive maps had shown. Then, it waited again, as if telling him to follow. Kairos's hands trembled on the controls. He could run, he could turn back now. But something inside him whispered that if he fled, he would regret it for the rest of his life. He had stumbled onto a secret the universe had buried. And maybe, just maybe, he was meant to uncover it. With a slow breath, he followed the black ship. The journey stretched into another day. Kairos tried to scan the vessel, but his systems showed nothing, like it was a shadow instead of metal. He felt the same pressure in his chest as on the archive ship, the same weight that made breathing harder. But he kept going, his eyes locked. On the black silhouette ahead, finally they reached the edge of a dead system. A broken sun glowed weakly at its center, its light dim and sickly. Around it spun, shattered planets, nothing but ruins and dust. Kairos's scanner screamed with static. Strange radiation filled the air. But not the kind that killed. This was something different. Something that made machines stutter and lights flicker. The black ship stopped near the remains of a world. The planet looked torn apart, its surface cracked like broken glass. Kairos stared at it, his mouth dry. He had never seen destruction like this. It was not war. It looked as if something had reached down with invisible hands and simply crushed the planet in rage. Then, black ship finally sent a signal. A single image appeared on Kairos's screen. It was the same circle symbol with two crossing lines. The human mark. Kairos's blood ran cold. He leaned back, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. This was no accident. The ship had been waiting for him. It wanted him to see this place, this broken world, this reminder of humanity's absence. But before he could speak, before he could ask why, his screen filled with words. They are not gone. They are only hidden. Do you want to know where? Karos stared at the glowing letters. His throat felt dry. Knew every empire would kill him for even speaking with such a ship. He knew his own people would call him a fool for not fleeing. But something inside told him the truth was more dangerous than any empire, and yet his hand moved toward the console. Slowly, carefully, he typed his answer. Yes. The black ship stayed still, silent in the dead system. Karos waited for an answer, his breath shallow, his palms wet against the controls. He had said yes. He had asked the question no one dared ask. Now he wondered if he had just signed his own death sentence. The screen flickered again. More words appeared, slow, deliberate, as if each one carried weight, then follow. Without another signal, the black ship turned away from the ruined planet. Its engines lit faintly, and it began to drift deeper into the broken system. Karos gritted his teeth and guided his ship after it. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, but he could not stop now. The secret was too close. As they passed the shattered world, his scanners picked up strange shapes among the debris. At first he thought they were only rocks, but then he saw sharp lines, broken hulls, fragments of ships. His eyes widened. These were not alien designs he recognized. The style was different, boxy, practical, simple, yet strong. His heart beat faster. These were human ships. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all destroyed. Twisted metal drifted in silence, the remains of a battle long forgotten. Some ships were massive carriers, others small fighters, but all shared the same mark, the circle with crossing lines. Karos whispered to himself. They were here. Humans were here. The black ship moved past the wreckage without slowing. Karos followed, his eyes still locked on the silent graveyard of ships. The thought hit him like a storm. The humans had fought here, and they had lost. The dead sun loomed larger as they approached its faint glow. Round it, more debris floated like ghost satellites, broken stations, torn metal frames. And then Karos saw something that made him forget to breathe. A station larger than a city still intact. It hung in the void like a dark crown, its rings broken but its core steady. Faint lights flickered on its surface, old but not dead. The black ship stopped in front of it.
Again.
Words appeared on Karos's screen. This was the last stronghold. Enter. Karos's hands trembled. His ship was small, not built for ancient ruins. He hesitated, staring at the giant structure. The humans had died here. That much was clear. Lent. And yet part of it still lived, waiting for someone like him. He took a long breath and pushed the engines forward. His craft moved through the shattered rings, dodging floating metal. Slowly, he slipped inside one of the broken docking bays. His landing was rough, his ship scraping against cold steel, but it held. The moment he stepped out, the silence struck him. The air was thin, old, but still breathable. Dust covered everything. His boots echoed as he walked through the bay. Signs. In faded letters lined the walls, written in human language he did not understand. But the symbol appeared again and again, painted proudly across the metal. He reached a door half buried in rubble. As he touched the panel, the door hissed open, startling him. The station was not dead after all. Power still pulsed in its heart. Karos moved cautiously down a dark corridor. Lights flickered weakly as if recognizing his presence. He felt the same weight as before, pressing on his chest, but stronger now. It was as if the station itself was watching him. Then a voice spoke, not through his ears, but inside his mind. You seek them. Karos froze. His hand reached for his blaster, but he saw no one. The voice was calm, old, heavy with meaning. You are not human, it said, but you carry curiosity. That is enough. Karos's throat tightened. He forced out words. Who? Who are you? I am Echo, the voice answered. The last guardian. I was left behind to keep their memory until they return. Karos swallowed hard. His heart raced. Turn? You mean they are alive? The Silence stretched before the voice replied. It's not alive as you understand. Not dead either. They are hidden, waiting for the right time. Waiting for the universe to need them again. Kairos felt his legs weaken. The humans were not gone. They had not been erased. They had chosen to disappear. But why? He whispered. Why vanish when they had all this? The lights around him dimmed, then glowed brighter as if the station itself breathed. The voice grew heavier, deeper, because the universe feared them. The empires united against them. They saw what humanity could do, even when outnumbered, even when broken. Humanity was a mirror of something greater, something that could not be controlled. So the universe struck, a war that no records dare keep. And still, the humans did not fall. They chose silence instead, and they wait in places no one can reach. Kairos's mind spun. It was too much, too heavy to believe. But the wreckage outside, the black ship, the station, none of it was a lie. The voice spoke again. You came here, smuggler, because you were hunted. You want safety. But now you carry their secret. You cannot turn back. The universe will chase you, for it knows the signal has awakened. The others already move. The Dominion will not allow you to live. Kairos's stomach turned cold. He had not told anyone. He had barely spoken the words. And yet the voice was right. If the empires learned he had seen this, they would never let him go. What do I do? He asked, almost begging. The voice paused, then answered with a strange weight. You must choose. Leave and live as prey, or stay and carry the fire. Kairos's heart pounded. The silence stretched around him, heavy, suffocating. He felt as though the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for his choice. Kairos stood frozen in the dark corridor of the human station. The voice still echoed inside his skull, calm yet heavy. Leave and live as prey, or stay and carry the fire. Tried to swallow, but his throat felt dry. His whole life he had been running from warlords, from debt, from enemies who always wanted a piece of him. And now the universe itself seemed to offer him a different kind of escape. But it came with a price, he whispered, his voice barely audible. If I carry the fire, what happens to me? The lights flickered, pulsing like a heartbeat. The voice answered slowly. You will no longer be only yourself. The memory of humanity will join you. Their courage, their anger, their hope, you will carry it all. But it will also make you hunted. The empires will know you are different. They will fear you as they once feared them. Kairos closed his eyes. His chest tightened. Part of him wanted to run back to his ship, leave the station, and vanish into the stars. But another part, the stronger part, felt the pull. For years he had lived like a shadow, always hiding, always weak. But here, for the first time, something was being offered to him, a chance to be more. He opened his eyes and whispered, I'll stay. I'll carry it. The station groaned as if it had been waiting for those words for centuries. A deep vibration shook the floor beneath his feet. Lights blazed along the walls, bright and alive. The voice grew louder, then stepped forward. Kairos followed the glowing lights down the corridor. They led him to a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. At the center stood a machine, tall and ancient, shaped like a pillar wrapped in steel coils. Symbols marked its surface, the human circle with crossing lines carved deep into the metal. The voice filled the chamber. This was their ark, the last echo of their spirit. It holds memories, skills, fragments of what they were to carry. The fire is to bind yourself to it. Kairos's legs shook as he walked closer. The machine hummed, waiting. He reached out a trembling hand and touched the cold surface. In an instant, the world vanished. Kairos gasped as visions slammed into his mind. He saw humans fighting in endless wars, bleeding but still standing. He saw them building great ships with their bare hands, carving paths through the void when no one else dared. He felt their rage when they were betrayed, their sorrow when they buried their dead, their laughter in the face of doom. It was too much. His knees buckled, his body trembled, his mind screamed for release. But then, deep inside the storm of memories, he felt something else, a warmth, like fire spreading through his chest. It was not just pain, it was strength, it was defiance. It was the unshakable will that had carried humanity across the stars. When the visions faded, Kairos collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. His body burned, his heart raced, but he felt different, stronger, alive in a way he had never known. The voice spoke again, softer now. It is done. The fire has chosen. Kairos pushed himself up, his hands trembling. He looked at them as if they belonged to someone else. He felt a sharpness in his mind, as if new thoughts, new instincts, whispered just beyond reach. He knew things, techniques, strategies, survival skills that were not his own. They belonged to the humans who had come before, and now they lived. Inside him, he stood, his chest rising with heavy breaths. What now? The voice paused. Now, you run. The signal of your choice cannot be hidden. The empires already feel it. They will come for you. But you are no longer prey. You are the spark. And if you survive, others will follow. Kairos's eyes widened. Others. There are more arcs, the voice explained, scattered across. The stars hidden in forgotten places. Each one carries another fragment of their fire. If you find them, the pieces will grow stronger, and then humanity will rise again. Kairos's heart pounded. The task was impossible. Every empire in the galaxy would be against him. He was just one man, a smuggler with no army, no allies. But when he thought of turning back, when he thought of giving up, the fire inside his chest flared, refusing to let him surrender. Suddenly alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashed. Kairos spun toward the docking bay. His ship's sensors screamed through the comms. Something was coming. The voice spoke urgently. They have found you, the Dominion. They come to erase what you have seen. Kairos's pulse thundered. He ran through the corridors, the fire in his chest driving his legs faster. He threw himself into the pilot's chair just as his ship's systems lit up with warning signals. On the edge of the dead system, fleet had arrived, massive warships bearing the mark of the Dominion, their weapons already aimed at the station. Kairos's fingers flew across the controls. He had no chance against them, not alone. But the fire whispered in his mind, offering him paths, strategies, desperate moves. His eyes narrowed. He wasn't running this time. The first blasts of plasma lit the void as the Dominion fleet advanced. Kairos gritted his teeth. His story was no longer about survival. It was about carrying the fire. And the universe would soon learn that. Humanity's place was no longer vacant. The Dominion fleet moved like a wall of steel across the dead system. Dozens of warships, their hulls glowing with power, surrounded the human station. Kairos's small craft looked like a toy compared to them, fragile and hopeless. But his chest burned with the fire. He gripped the controls, his mind sharper than ever. The voice of the station whispered in his thoughts, calm but urgent. They fear what you now carry. They will not stop. If you fall here, the fire is lost. Escape, and it spreads. Scanners lit up with red warnings as the first wave of missiles shot toward him. His instincts screamed to flee, but the fire whispered something different, paths he had never thought possible. His hands moved fast, sharper than his fear. He twisted the ship between the blasts, weaving through explosions that should have killed him. His small craft darted like a shadow, faster than the massive warships could track. Still, he knew he could not last long. Every Dominion gun was locking onto him. He needed more than running. He needed a way out. His eyes flicked too. The wreckage around him? Broken human ships floated silently, forgotten. But the fire inside his chest pulsed, and suddenly he understood. The wreckage was not dead. Pieces of old technology still waited, dormant, ignored by the Dominion. Kairos steered hard toward the debris field. Plasma fire lit up the void behind him, chasing his small ship, but he did not slow. His craft scraped between twisted holes, dodging giant fragments of metal. Dominion ships followed, but their size worked against them. Some slammed into wreckage, their shields sparking Kairos's mind raced. His scanners picked up an old battleship carcass, larger than the rest. Its power core was shattered, but deep inside, one system flickered faintly. Weapons. Human weapons. His breath caught. Could it still work? He dove his ship toward the husk. Landing rough against its side, his fingers danced across the console, connecting his ship to the old systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a groan like a dying beast, the battleship's cannons came alive. The fire burned brighter in his chest. He knew what to do. "Let's see if humans really built these to last," he muttered. The ancient cannons roared. Blinding streams of light tore through the void, striking Dominion warships before they could react. One exploded in a burst of fire, another broke in half, its hull screaming as it split. The fleet staggered in shock. Human weapons thought lost forever, were firing again. Karos laughed, half in terror, half in exhilaration. His small ship guided the old guns like extensions of his own hands. The fire whispered, showing him where to aim, when to fire. He felt as though countless human soldiers stood behind him, guiding his strikes. But the Dominion adapted quickly. Their fleets pulled back, regrouping. Dozens of fighters swarmed into the wreckage, hunting him like wolves. Karos's stolen cannons roared again, destroying many, but there were too many to stop. His systems screamed with damage as shots tore. Past him, sparks flew across his cockpit. The station's voice returned. "Urgent. You cannot win here. You must live. Take the path I will show you." Karos's screen lit up with new coordinates on escape route through the remains of shattered planets. It's dangerous, narrow, full of debris. But it was the only chance. He fired one last barrage from the ancient cannons, shattering to more Dominion ships, then ripped his craft free from the battleship husk. The fire blazed within him, pushing him forward. His ship screamed as it darted into the debris field, dodging boulders of stone and metal that spun like blades. Dominion fighters chased close behind, their weapons flashing. Karos clenched his teeth. His mind felt stretched, his hands moving. Faster than thought, he flipped his craft through gaps that should have been impossible, scraping past spinning fragments that could have sliced him in two. The Dominion pilots followed, but their larger ships crashed against the debris one by one, consumed by the chaos of the field. Only a few still pursued. Karos pushed harder, his engines burning hotter than ever. Then, at the final moment, he saw a narrow gap through the broken crust of a planet. He aimed for it, his ship groaning as it scraped through. A blinding light burst behind him as the last Dominion ships failed to follow, smashing into the rocks. Silence returned. His ship floated into a dark pocket of space, hidden by the planet's shadow. The Dominion fleet was far behind now, scattered and weakened. Karos slumped in his chair, his body shaking, sweat dripping from his forehead. He had survived, but the fire inside his chest did not let him rest. It burned steady, whispering in his mind. This is only the beginning. The Dominion knows. Others will know the hunt will not end. Karos closed his eyes, his breath ragged. He had no choice anymore. He was marked. Every empire in the galaxy would chase him, not for who he was, but for what he carried. The fire, the memory of humanity. He opened his eyes again, staring into the endless stars ahead. He was only one man, but he carried something greater than himself. And now the universe would feel it, far away in the Dominion Council chambers. Leaders watched the battle report in silence. Their fleets had been torn apart by a single smuggler with forgotten human weapons. Fear spread through them like poison. The word they dared not say hung heavy in the room. Human. Karos's ship drifted in the quiet shadow of the broken planet. His chest still burned with the fire, but exhaustion weighed heavy on him. His hands trembled as he shut down the damaged systems, sparks still popping from loose wires above his head. Somehow, against all odds, he had escaped the Dominion fleet. But he knew it was only the beginning. The fire whispered inside him, steady and warm, like a heartbeat that was not his own. It did not let him rest, move. Others know, the hunt spreads. Karos forced himself upright. His scanners flickered back to life, showing the debris field behind him, still glowing from battles just fought. But beyond that, faint signals. appeared Dominion reinforcements, warships rushing to finish what the First Fleet had failed. He had no time. He entered the new coordinates the station had left for him, hidden route and ancient path marked in the human maps. His ship's engines coughed, then roared weakly, pulling him away from the dead system. As the stars stretched into streaks of light, Karos leaned back in his chair, breathing hard. For hours, silence filled the cabin. His eyes closed, but the fire kept him from sleep. It gave him flashes of memory that were not his human hands building weapons, human. Voices shouting orders, human children laughing under alien skies. It was overwhelming, but also grounding. He was no longer just Karos, the smuggler. He was carrying something larger, something the universe had tried to bury. When the jump ended, the ship entered a quiet system, dim and cold. A red star burned. Weakly at its center, its planets nothing but barren rocks. His scanners found no life, no stations, no fleets, only silence. At first, Karos thought he had been led to another grave. Then his scanners blinked. A signal pulsed faintly from the third planet. Not Dominion, not alien, something older. Karos narrowed his eyes. The fire inside his chest flared as if recognizing the signal. He guided his ship down through the thin atmosphere, landing rough on cracked ground. Dust rose in clouds around him as he stepped outside, his boots crunching against the lifeless soil. The signal led him across jagged cliffs and canyons until he found it a buried structure, its metal walls exposed from the erosion of centuries. Faded symbols marked the entrance, the same human circle with crossing lines. His breath caught. Another arc, he pushed inside. The air was thin but breathable, stale with age. Darkness stretched in every direction, broken only by the faint glow of old lights still clinging to life. The corridors were different from the first stations, smaller, tighter, almost like a bunker. As he moved deeper, the signal grew stronger, humming in his ears. Then, suddenly, he was not alone. A figure stepped. Out of the shadows, tall and armored. Karos's heart leaped as he raised his blaster, but the figure lifted its hand slowly, not in attack. Its voice echoed through a helmet. "You found it too." Karos froze. The figure was not human, its features visible under the helmets. Glass were those of a Cernica reptilian race known for mercenaries and raiders. But this one carried no weapon in hand, only a worn pack across its back. Karos narrowed his eyes. "What are you doing here?" Cernak tilted its head. "The same as you, I think. It's chasing whispers of a vanished species. The humans. You heard the call, didn't you?" Karos' chest tightened. The fire inside him burned hot, warning him. He kept his blaster raised. "Stay back. This isn't yours." The Cernak chuckled softly. "No, it's not. And yet I've been following their trails for years. Old maps, dead signals, broken records no one else dares to touch. My people call me insane for wasting my life. But here I am, standing in a human ruin. Just like you." Karos hesitated. His finger tightened on the trigger. The fire whispered, urging caution, urging silence. Yet something in the Cernak's voice carried truth. The alien slowly lowered his helmet. His eyes were sharp but tired. His scales marked with scars. "My name is Jorok, and if you've come this far, smuggler, then you already know this isn't a myth." Karos lowered his weapon slightly, though his grip stayed firm. "Why? Why chase them?" Jorak's mouth curled into a grim smile. "Because the universe fears them. And anything the universe fears must be worth finding." Before Karos could answer, the ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Alarms echoed faintly from the buried walls. The Ark was waking. The fire blazed in Karos's chest. He felt it pulling him forward, guiding him to the heart of the structure. Without a word, he pushed past Jorok, racing down the corridor. The Cernak followed, his heavy steps echoing close behind. They burst into a chamber where a massive core pulsed faintly, waiting for activation. Symbols glowed across the walls, human designs carved deep into the stone-like metal. The air vibrated. With energy, Karos stepped closer, his chest burning brighter. The Ark recognized him, but this time he was not alone. Gorak's eyes widened as the glow spread across the chamber. "What is this?" Jorak whispered. Kairos clenched his fists. His voice was low, but certain. Another piece of the fire. The core flared to life, light spilling across the walls. And somewhere far above, ships entered the system. Dominion scouts. The hunt had already found them. The buried ark glowed brighter, its walls humming like a deep drumbeat. Kairos stood before the massive core, his chest burning with the fire, his breath fast. The air crackled with energy, lifting dust from the floor as if gravity itself had shifted. Behind him, Jorak. The Cernak shielded his eyes from the light. His voice carried both awe and fear. "By the stars, it's alive." The humans left this waiting. Kairos didn't answer. He stepped closer to the core, feeling the fire inside him connect with it, like two flames joining into one. Visions flashed through his mind again, humans, standing together, their faces scarred but unbroken, their voices shouting in unity. This arc carried something different, not just memories, strategies, unity, the strength of fighting as one. The walls shook. The ground trembled beneath their boots. The ark was fully waking. Then alarms screamed from Kairos's ship outside. Dominion scouts had landed. Their boots clanged on the barren soil above, their scanners searching, their weapons ready. Dominion had traced the signal, and now they were coming down into the ruin. Jorak hissed, his scales rippling with tension. "We can't fight them here. Not against so many." Kairos turned to him, his eyes burning with a strange sharpness. "We don't have a choice. If they take this ark, if they destroy it, then everything is lost." Jorak bared his teeth. Grim smile across his reptilian face. "Then we make them bleed." The two rushed into the corridors just as the first Dominion soldiers burst in. Tall, armored, faceless behind their glowing visors, they moved with precision. Blaster fire lit. The dark halls, sparks flying as metal walls cracked under the shots. Kairos moved like he had never moved before. The fire inside him guided every step. He dodged, rolled, and fired back with impossible accuracy. His shots struck armor weak points as if he had trained his whole life for it. Dominion soldiers fell one by one, their lifeless bodies crashing. Onto the floor, Jorak fought beside him, swinging a heavy blade he had carried on his back. His strikes were brutal, tearing through armor with sheer strength. The two moved together, different species, different lives, but united in one goal: protect the ark. Still, more soldiers poured in. Kairos knew they could not hold forever. The fire inside him whispered strategies as the ark, awaken its defenses, turn its ancient systems against the enemy. But could he? He had only just begun to understand it. The choice came fast. Explosions ripped through the hall as Dominion heavy troops advanced, their weapons glowing hotter. Kairos grabbed Jorak's arm and pulled him back toward the chamber. "We hold them here. The ark isn't just a memory, it's a weapon." They reached the glowing core again. Dominion soldiers stormed in behind them, their rifles raised. Kairos pressed his palm against the core, his chest burning like fire and lightning. He shouted, his voice cracking, "Answer me. Show them what humans left behind." The chamber erupted with light. Walls split open, revealing ancient turrets. Hidden within, energy weapons, long silent, powered to life, and unleashed a storm of fire. Dominion soldiers screamed as blasts tore through their armor, cutting them down in flashes of burning light. The room shook with power, the ark roaring like a beast awoken from endless sleep. Kairos staggered back, his hands still burning from the connection. His vision blurred, but he forced himself to stand. Jorak laughed, a savage, wild laugh. The humans were gods of war, and now their fire is ours. But the victory was short. Outside, Dominion warships descended there, shadows falling across the barren planet. The ground quaked as more troops prepared to land, far more than the ark could defend against. The voice of the fire whispered in Kairos's mind, "You cannot stay. Take what is given and run. This ark has given you unity. Now use it." Looked at Jorak, his chest heaving. "We can't win, but we can't escape." Jorok's eyes narrowed. And then what? Run until they catch us. Karos shook his head. His voice carried a strength that did not feel like his own. No, we gather more. There are other arcs, scattered across the stars. Each one holds another piece. If we find them all, then humanity rises again. And when that happens, the Dominion falls. For a moment, Jorak only stared at him. Then the Cernak gave a sharp nod, his blade dripping with Dominion blood. Then I'm with you. To the end. Explosions rocked the ruin above. Dust rained down as the Dominion began their full assault. Karos and Jorak sprinted back through the corridors, the Ark's defenses still firing behind them, holding off the invaders for as long as they could. They burst into the docking bay, boarded Karos's battered ship, and launched into the sky. Dominion fire chased them instantly, plasma streaks burning across the thin atmosphere. Karos's hands moved like lightning on the controls, guided by whispers of the fire. He twisted through incoming blasts, pushing his small ship harder than ever before. Jorak strapped himself into the co-pilot seat, his deep voice growling. Your little ship won't survive another battle. Karos gritted his teeth. Then we won't fight. We'll vanish. He slammed the controls, activating the old human maps again. A hidden path opened before them, a route marked only by the strange symbols of the humans. The ship roared into faster-than-light travel, just as Dominion warships closed around them. In the silence of the jump, both men sat breathing hard. Karos's chest still burned, the fire whispering of the next arc, the next fragment waiting to be found. Jorak glanced at him, his reptilian eyes sharp. You carry something dangerous, smuggler, something that will change everything. And now. So do I. Karos met his gaze, his voice steady. Then let's change it together. The ship roared through the void, leaving the Dominion fleet far behind. Karos sat in the pilot's chair, his body heavy with exhaustion, but the fire in his chest burned brighter than ever. It whispered of places yet unseen, of arcs waiting. In silence, of a destiny greater than his own. Beside him, Jorak adjusted his blade, the scars on his reptilian face sharp in the glow of the ship's lights. We escaped twice, he muttered, his voice low. But we won't keep running forever. The Dominion won't stop. They'll throw entire fleets at us now. Karos nodded. He knew the truth of those words, yet deep inside, the fire whispered, something else? They will chase. But the more they chase, the more they reveal their fear, and fear is weakness. The coordinates burned across his screen, another hidden path, another arc waiting. But this time, something was different. The maps no longer showed just one point. They branched outward, scattering across dozens of stars, like a web of secrets. Each line carried the same symbol, the human mark. Karos leaned forward, his voice almost a whisper. There are so many. Jorak's yellow eyes narrowed. How many arcs did they leave behind? Enough, Karos said softly. Enough to change everything. As their ship jumped again, the vision came. Karos's eyes blurred, and he saw Flash's worlds lighting up one by one. Arcs awakening, the fire spreading through chosen carriers across the galaxy. Not just humans, but others. 2 alien faces, alien voices, all burning with the same defiance, the same unyielding will. Humanity's fire was no longer just theirs. It was spreading, carried by anyone bold enough to touch it. The vision faded. As the ship emerged into a new system, before them floated another ruin, this one smaller but intact, hidden behind the shadow of a frozen moon. Karos felt the fire pull at him, urging him to land. But before he could, alarms screamed. A fleet blocked their path. Not Dominion, not any empire. Different Karoses. Breath caught. The ships were sleek, angular, painted in black and silver. At their center floated a vessel unlike the rest, scarred but unmistakable. Jorak growled. What are they? Karos's chest burned hotter. He recognized the design, not from his own knowledge, but from the fire's memories. The ship was human. Ancient but alive. A voice crackled through the coms, rough and layered with static. Smuggler Cernak, you carry what does not belong. To you, Karos's fingers tightened on the controls. Who are you? The voice answered with weight. The Watchers. We are what remains of the Guardians. Our duty is to protect the silence. Humanity chose to vanish. You will not undo that choice, Jorak hissed. They were here all along. Karos's heart pounded. The fire inside him burned like a storm. He spoke with a strength he did not know he had. The universe is choking under empires that fear their own shadows. Humanity's silence left a wound, and now every empire fills it with chains. The fire doesn't belong to silence. It belongs to those who will fight. The Watcher's voice darkened. If you awaken what was buried, you bring war that no one can contain. Karos's jaw tightened. Then so be it. Silence stretched across the combs. Finally, the Watcher spoke again. Prove yourself. Survive. Their fleet moved like a storm, weapons locking onto Karos's tiny ship. The battle began instantly. Blasts of energy shook the void, tearing across the stars. Karos's ship spun and twisted, every move guided by the fire's whispers. Jorak manned the guns, roaring as he tore through fighters with savage precision. Fight was impossible. Outnumbered, outgunned, hunted on all sides. Yet Karos felt no fear. The fire filled his veins, showing him paths, giving him strength. His small ship dodged death again and again, carving a trail through the Watcher's fleet, and then something happened. As their ship skimmed past the frozen moon, the arc beneath it awakened. Light flared from the surface, ancient systems roaring. To life, energy surged into the void, striking the Watcher fleet with a blinding wave. Ships spun out of control, their systems crippled. The arc had chosen. It had answered Karos's fire. The combs erupted with chaos. The Watchers shouted in disbelief as their fleet scattered. Karos seized the chance, guiding his ship into the shadow of the arc. The massive structure opened. Welcoming him inside, silence returned as the doors sealed. Karos leaned back, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. Jorak sat beside him, his laughter low and sharp. You did it, smuggler. You made even the ghosts fear. The fire burned in Karos's chest, steady and unstoppable. He realized now it was never just about humans returning. It was about the universe remembering what they stood for: defiance, courage, unity. The fire was not only for one species, it was for anyone who refused to bow. He looked at Jorak, then at the glowing arc around them. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. The Dominion will come. The Watchers will come. The whole galaxy will come, but we'll be ready. The fire whispered one last truth into his mind. Humanity's place was never vacant. It was only waiting to be carried by those who dared. Karos closed his eyes, a faint smile breaking. Across his tired face, the first time in his life, he was not running anymore. He was leading. And somewhere in the endless dark, the universe shivered, knowing the silence was broken.